I've been a truck driver for many years, but I'll never forget the day I saw an injured nun trying to protect a pregnant young woman on the side of the road while a massive snake slowly approached them. In that moment, I realized something terrible could happen if I didn't act. What happened next changed my life forever. At the end of the video, comment on what you thought of the story. Give it a rating from 0 to 10, and tell me what city you're watching from. I really want to get to know you better, so subscribe to the channel to support my work. I know that highway like the back of my hand. 20 years crossing that same stretch of cracked blacktop between Interstate 40 and Cedar Creek, always at 5 in the morning, always with my black coffee getting cold in the cup holder, and the AM radio playing classic country on volume 3. Every pothole, every curve, every crooked pine tree, all burned into my memory like an old scar. So when I saw that dark shape in the mud, 50 yards ahead, my foot hit the brake before my brain even processed what it was. I jumped out of the cab with the engine still rumbling. The smell of wet earth mixed with diesel hit me in the face. And then I saw it. A nun in a black habit covering a pregnant girl with her own body, both of them caked in mud up to their necks, and less than 12 feet away, coiled in the roots of a fallen oak tree, a massive python, thick as a telephone pole, watching them with that cold-blooded calmness that freezes your veins. My heart pounded. I didn't have a gun, didn't have anything but my bare hands and the heavy steel chain from my cargo doors. I grabbed the chain, threw my arms wide, and screamed. I screamed like a madman, screamed like someone who was more terrified of doing nothing than of dying trying. The snake stayed still for 3 eternal seconds, then slithered back into the thick brush. Only then could I take a breath. The nun had a swollen ankle and a pale face. The girl was unconscious, her breathing shallow. That's when I looked at her wrist and saw the tattoo, a stylized cedar tree. I recognized her instantly. Emily Sullivan, granddaughter of Old Man Sullivan, the wealthiest landowner in the county. She had been missing for 3 weeks. Nobody talked about it. The nun whispered in my ear before closing her eyes from exhaustion, telling me she was running from him, from the nephew. I carried them both to my rig. My hands were shaking, my knees aching, feeling that heaviness in my chest that comes when you know you've just stepped into a story much bigger than yourself. At the county clinic, the nurse hooked Emily up to an IV while Sister Mary, that's how she introduced herself, quietly repeated that the good Lord had put my truck on that road at that exact moment. I didn't know what to say. I'd never been much of a church-going man. Emily's baby had a strong heartbeat on the monitor. 8 months along, they said. She was dehydrated, her body freezing but alive. I was sitting on the hallway bench, my hands still stained with mud when my cell phone rang. Unknown number. A voice told me that whatever I saw that morning, I actually didn't see at all, and then hung up. And in that split second, I felt the weight of something shifting in the shadows. Something way bigger than I had figured. Carter Sullivan, Old Man Sullivan's nephew, who had been managing the estate ever since the old man got sick. His name floated around the local diners like the name of someone you both fear and respect. A guy with a quick smile and a firm handshake. The kind of fella you don't want on your bad side. With Emily's pregnancy, the old man's legitimate daughter, the whole game had changed. An heir born to her meant Carter was cut out of the deed, cut out of the money, cut out of everything. He had spent weeks pressuring Emily to sign a power of attorney, signing over her rights before the baby came. When she finally said no for the last time, she just vanished. Carter spread the word that she had traveled down to Atlanta for medical treatment. Sister Mary told me all of this 3 days later, when she was finally able to walk again. Emily had taken refuge in the little roadside chapel, sleeping on the wooden pews, eating whatever the local church ladies brought her. The nun had been caring for her in secret, until someone spotted her, until Carter sent his men to get her. The sister didn't go into the gritty details, but said she found Emily that morning in critical condition, far from the chapel, vulnerable and too weak to keep going. She shielded the girl with her own body when she saw the snake closing in, and she prayed. I listened to it all in silence, with that tight knot in my throat that chokes you when you realize you did the right thing, but that the right thing is going to cost you. I tried to file a police report at the sheriff's station. The desk clerk, Bobby, Carter's old drinking buddy, conveniently lost my paperwork. Twice. I reached out to the local Teamsters Lodge in the city. Dave, the union boss, looked at me with pity and said he couldn't afford to get involved. Every door I knocked on was locked before I even got there. Emily woke up on the fourth day. Her eyes were hollow, her voice raspy. She told me it was no use fighting, that Carter had enough money to buy any truth he wanted, and that it would be better to just sign the papers and end the nightmare. Every time I tried to give her hope, she kept telling me I didn't know what he was capable of. And I didn't, but I knew one thing. I had spent 10 years working as a field medic for a relief group out in rural Appalachia before I dropped it all to drive trucks. I had seen folks pass away, seen folks survive, seen folks give up. I had learned that doing the right thing doesn't come with a money-back guarantee, but it's worth it anyway. I had kept that part of my life a secret forever, never told a soul. But right then, watching Emily give up on herself, I felt it was time to remember the man I used to be. The pushback came fast. Chuck, the ranch foreman, cut my rig off on a sharp bend with 3 guys on horseback. He told me, without even raising his voice, that there were longer, harder roads for folks who didn't know when to mind their own business. I climbed down from the cab with my heavy chain slung over my shoulder, my knees aching, and stared Chuck down in dead silence. He waited for a response I never gave. Then he got back on his horse and rode off, but the message was crystal clear. That night, parked on the shoulder of the highway, with the engine dead and the quiet pressing in on me, I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I felt terrified. I felt completely alone. I felt so small. The next morning, Sister Mary showed up walking down the shoulder of the road, her ankle still wrapped, having hiked 2 miles. She handed me a little blue notebook and told me she didn't know if I believed in God, John, but that God clearly believed in me. I opened the notebook. Every single page was a meticulous log of everything the sister had witnessed during the weeks Emily was in hiding. Dates, names, conversations, threats, all jotted down in tiny, unwavering handwriting. It was the smoking gun we needed, and Carter knew that notebook existed. I closed the little book. I looked at the nun, and I finally understood that the steel chain I used to scare off that snake was the exact same chain I had been carrying inside my soul my whole life. The sheer grit to never back down when the whole world is telling you to quit. Tyler was the missing puzzle piece. A young agronomist who used to work on the Sullivan estate and had been holding on to a soil report for years, a report Carter had doctored to artificially inflate the property values. He never had the guts to bring it to light, not until I knocked on his front door gripping that blue notebook. The hearing was set by the county judge to officially approve the power of attorney Carter submitted as proof that Emily gave up her rights willingly. I walked into that courtroom with Sister Mary right by my side, the little notebook sealed inside an envelope, and Tyler holding the raw soil report. Carter was sitting there in a sharp light suit, a smug grin on his face, looking untouchable. When he saw us walk in, his smile faltered. Just for a split second, but it faltered. The judge reviewed the evidence, read the notebook, looked over the land report, demanded some answers. Carter tried to talk his way out of it, tried to flash that smile again, but this time it didn't quite reach his eyes. The document was thrown out. Carter walked out of that room without ever looking back. Emily, sitting in a wheelchair near the back, cried quietly. But this time they were tears of pure relief. 3 weeks later, Emily gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Dark hair, big bright eyes. She named the kid Mary, honoring the brave nun who shielded her in the mud. I quit my driving route. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with my life, but I knew I was done driving down empty highways carrying an invisible load. Sister Mary asked me to stick around and help fix up that old roadside chapel. I said yes. The dirt lot around it turned into a community garden. The local women brought over saplings, shared stories, planted seeds. The mud was replaced by young oak trees and rows of sunflowers planted by hand. Old Man Sullivan, back on his feet and back in charge of his land, had a handmade wooden sign staked right at the entrance of the dirt road. Just one word: miracle. I stared at that sign, looked down at my rough, calloused hands, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the crushing weight of everything I'd lost. I felt the warmth of what I had finally found. The highway was still right there, cracked and dusty. But now, whenever I looked down that road, I didn't see loneliness anymore. I saw people. I saw life. I realized that sometimes the man upstairs doesn't work with kid gloves. He uses hands just like mine, rough, shaking, and caked in mud, hands that simply refuse to let go of what they're holding on to. And that, I've learned, is more than enough. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every single day that will brighten up your life. Let me know what you thought of my story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. And thank you so much.